There they have to play very hard every Saturday, and of course they don't lose that habit when they come onto the international stage. McGrath with Aston Villa, McAteer with Bolton, Quinn with Manchester City, just to name some players who are not with clubs really right at the top of at the moment, but good professionals and hard-working sides. More variety to the Portuguese play now. I think allowing the Irish just a little bit freedom to come forward a bit more to try to create space. Figo brought down, and he has teased and tormented this Irish defence. Not, I may say, yet to the point of breaking, but the quality of his play, the variety of it, both on the right and left-hand side, as you see there, has been quite immense. It really has stretched them. Now we have Domingos planted right inside the box there. Watch for him going, touched away by Kelly. Determined to get his defenders in line again, as you can see there. And Omar, you begin to wonder, this Irish defence is now being turned from left to right. Too often in the first half, the Portuguese were going straight through the middle, all sort of longitudinal. Now they're spreading it, getting a lot of width, as witness says, coming from both right and left. And so far they've held out. And the Portuguese, you can see from that, certainly playing with equal determination now. Do you see the determined way the Secretario came forward, the Porto player who plays like that in the Champions League as well. There's a run forward by Figo. Yes, I do believe just our indications of the Irish defence getting slightly fragmented. Two of these players looking a little bit weary now, kicking the ball almost anywhere. Secretario! Well, they've been trying one-touch football to each other, advancing on the penalty area, and we've seen very little of long-range shooting like this. It almost paid off. Back they go, backs to the wall, as it were. The flood still continues. And you wonder how long they can hold out. It's all very well to have courage, but they've got a side playing with a great deal of verve and skill, with the exception, I hasten to add, of that final shot you saw there. Well, it's a little bit obvious, that kind of play, putting the ball up high, laying it down. Easily enough read by this Portuguese side, and that's taken again, this time from Domingos. The right sort of play, and I think the Irish supporters not being intimidated at all by this, still roaring their team on, but again, the final interception there by Dennis Irwin put him off. Look at all that space. This time Domingos has wandered out to the left to get a little bit of freedom. He's found it very tight in the middle. And yes, it's Niall Quinn who came back there and gets a yellow card. Well, so many strikers tackle like this. It's not his job to tackle, I suppose, not his principal job. Now it is to defend in his own penalty area, using that immeasurable height of his. I think it'll come in. And this time the long one, brilliantly saved by Kelly. Well, if you guess I was fooled by that free kick, you're absolutely right. I thought it would be floated in towards Paulinho Santos or Rui Costa. Instead, they played it square and allowed for the long shot again, given that it could be wind assisted. Look, you can see the corner flag away on the far side. Gives you an indication of the strength of the wind. There it is, out again by Kelly. Shot this time by Kuto. While he stood up to everything they've thrown at him. Really is a marvelous defensive performances. They've been outplayed in midfield, outthought, but not outgunned yet. Still in this with a chance. If only they could play for the breakaway. On by Figo. Kind of half-hearted attempt at an appeal for a free kick there. Well, you've got to think that the Portuguese might be wearing themselves down as well. And I'm quite sure that Big Jack has told his team the cardinal rule in a circumstance like this is concentration. The Irish side simply do not have the ability of the Portuguese. They don't have a Figo, they don't have the dangerous reading from midfield like Paulo Sousa and Rui Costa. The play is very, very predictable, but it's still no scoring. Dominguez trying to turn it inside. There's a delightful flick. It's in! Rui Costa. 15 minutes into the second half, and the man I said was so aggressive and dynamic from midfield with his long runs decided this time on that massive chip. Exquisite judgment by the midfielder, and if you want to see a celebration ever at its very best, you ought to come to the Stadium of Light. And they really are celebrating a mixture, I have to say, of relief and jubilation. And well, that indicates it, doesn't it? Just get the impression that Rui Costa was thanking his maker up there for that goal. Great judgment. Look, he might have attacked the penalty area himself and gone further in. He got it right. Well, they've got to pull back from this, though. This is no good for the Irish. Really got to win this game, and of course, all depends on what happens in Belfast. You have Austria playing there. They've really got to go and try and win there. Because it's very unlikely they'll finish up as one of the six best runners-up. So it's very important for them to be positive now, though I don't see anything in the play at the moment that can take on the Portuguese. I see a lot of courage and stubbornness and great goalkeeping, and there you struggle to find anything else. I'm quite sure Jack Charlton, realist as he is, realizes he's been well outplayed tonight. Cadetti coming on and taking the time about it. I think I also have to add that the Portuguese have harnessed this very strong wind exceptionally well. They've decided to raid that goal from longer out, and it's paid off. On comes Foya and Cadetti. Cadetti adding to the players, a man who can come from midfield, nip very quickly into the penalty areas, as we see from Portuguese football. 6 Porto players in the side. Not at all surprising. Appeals for hands there, it's not given. And away comes Oceano. Well, you've hardly mentioned any of the Irish in midfield because they've been doing nothing there. It's all been negative for them at the moment, and Foya getting caught up in that little marsh just in front of his own penalty area. I think he fell awkwardly on his elbow. Strong run by Oceano. I wouldn't like to get in his way running like that. He's a pretty tough hombre when he gets his head down and charges at a defense. We've seen that often enough in the past. Picked up by Kennedy. Well, that's about the nearest to stretching the Portuguese defense we've come. Fernando Couto, player with Palmer, of course. Couto either plays very much back, playing almost just in front of central defense, or pushes right forward. He certainly times his run forwards very well. Appeals for a penalty. Certainly the Irish supporters thought that. Looked to me as if they were claiming that Helder had touched that ball as Cadetti puts it in. Well, you see, that's the dilemma the Irish now face. They've got to attack, and yet if they do this, they're playing against an attack that is very fast indeed on the break. But we did notice about the Irish when they played the Dutch. Now watch this again. Oh, that did look like deliberate hands, I must say. Now Cascarino, Tony Cascarino, the darling of the Marseille set. Very much, how could I put it, a hit or a miss man. Rain lashing down, it's in! Helder gets his head to that. Helder, the Benfica player, who's done that often enough in this stadium. And I think we're really seeing a goal brought about not just by the pressure of the Portuguese, but a defense that had now sagged at the knees. Rain-soaked and bedraggled, they looked extremely vulnerable there to that ball. Now, I think about half an hour ago that Irish defence might have picked him up, or else it might have been cleared on the line. It really is a defence, at least on the evening, in its death throes. I think it would take a miraculous happening or dreadful mishaps for the Irish to salvage this now. I really do think it's beyond them. I'm trying to put myself in the minds of at least Jack Charlton down there. The players are too busy to think about anything else. And about what's going through his mind. Does he imagine, or has he been told about happenings in Belfast? Because there is the possibility of a playoff. Away they go again. Oh, that's a mistake. And can you blame the goalkeeper, Kelly, who was almost playing water polo there? He's done remarkably well under the circumstances. And I imagine the Irish players in particular will be glad when this is all over. You see, it came from arms to chest, and being so slippy, but again, great defending. Kelly just sweeping that off the line. There's a better shot. Driving in now with great amount of courage, and Aldridge swinging round at it. He really does hit the ball very well, Aldridge, but it was just a little bit too direct. Mark Hugh, Vito Boyes had so little to do in this game, you could well imagine he might have made a mistake there. Wow, there's just that final run forward, and that's a free kick, I think. Paulo Sousa brought down. A gesture of exasperation from Dennis Irwin. Loud shouting there by Alan Kelly. Wonder if they'll go for the chip. Cadetti's in on it as well. In comes Rui Costa, man who scored that first goal. That's right against the wall and rather wasted, but I don't think they're particularly bothered at this stage, the Portuguese. Well, João Pinto and Paulo Sousa are part of the World Youth winning team in 90 and 91, which underlines the fact that we're watching a very young Portuguese side. Can't clear the lines at all well. To Aldridge. And the whole game now is parked in the Irish half. Narrowly passed. Held her with it. He's one of the more mature players, just touching 30, but we have the beginnings of a great team here, I think, coached by Oliveira, who was also the youth coach. Vita Baia coming off. They're just giving him a little rest as Nenio, I think it will be, coming on. If you're thinking of going your holidays to Portugal, don't choose the month of November. Well, they're delighted. I think they're now beginning to think not just of the honor and the privilege, but maybe also the bonus money. Well, we all think about that. Off you go. Can you hear the Irish singing in the background? And that must be an inspiration to the players. Okay, they're not going to salvage this game, but there's still a future, and is it just touched away? Well, the score could have been about 4 or 5 by now. That shot by Paulinho Santos. And it's becoming increasingly difficult for the Irish to defend. There's no offside, or is there? No, it's been given. Cadetti is the scorer 1 minute from the end of official time. And it's a mere postscript to what has been a devastating victory for the Portuguese. We have remarked on Irish courage, determination and organisation before. Well, it has been evident for a large part of the game, and that bedraggled little group there must surely acknowledge that they've been out of their class tonight. Nicely placed in by Paulinho Santos. There might have been a bit of a suspicion of offside here. Well, I don't know about that. In any case, it's purely academic. There's McGrath. He hasn't given up. Quinn. Well, the goalkeeper Neno taking no chances there. And now we simply await the referee's whistle. And the Irish only hope now for a playoff situation. And I'll tell you what, if they manage that, the last effort surely that they're going to have, yet again, the veteran John Aldridge. I was saying, if they do manage that playoff with the spirit that they have and Charlton's ability to get something extra out of them, I think they would still take some beating. And there it goes. The result, and the rain may have dampened them temporarily, but I'm quite sure that given that phalanx of support they've had in the stadium tonight, and the possibility of a playoff, that you'll find them coming back strongly. Don't discount them yet. There, of course, I have to say, to get my priorities absolutely right, they're the victorious Portuguese. They've played some superb football tonight. And again, you have to compliment them not just on the skill, but on the patience that they showed, because there was a stage just about before they scored when they looked as if they were beginning to get exasperated. And how about that as an attractive support? The Portuguese handsomely through to England.
Well, once the Republic had failed to pick up any points in Lisbon, they had to rely on Brian Hamilton's Northern Irish side taking points away from the Austrians. And coming up, one of the greatest nights in Northern Ireland's checkered footballing history. At a rain-swept Windsor Park in Belfast, just 7,000 fans were inside the ground, but those who were there saw a night to remember. 4-4-2, the Northern Irish lineup. They welcome back, strengthened by both Ian Dowie and Gillespie's presence, with Alan Fedis in goal, Steve Lomas and Frank Worthington, the fullbacks, Hill and Hunter in central defence. The Austrian side of Herbert Prohaska looked for Tony Porster in the number 9 shirt. He was the leading scorer in all the groups competing for qualification. Andy Herzog, the Bayern Munich star, and Peter Sturger in the number 11 jersey, who's contributed some crucial goals as well in the latter stages, not least a hat-trick to see off the Republic in the summer. So underway in the first half, Northern Ireland in the green jerseys and white shorts, Austria in their traditional black and white, and they're playing 5 at the back, and the onus on them to get a point that will carry them through to qualification. As we started the game, they were 1 point behind the Republic, but with a superior record. And the first scare for the Austrian keeper, Consul, as the Northern Irish came straight out and went for the jugular. Kubauer. Clearly the plan of Hamilton was to unsettle the Austrians, and you can hear the passion and noise being made by the small crowd. Inhospitable climate, vicious night, nasty weather, and certainly not suiting the Austrian style of play at all. And that was the diving Phil Gray just failing to connect with that ricochet as Dowie went in on the cross. Forward from Worthington, the senior player in the Northern Irish side. Here's Michael Hughes. Hughes lining up the cross, chested down by Dowie. 28 minutes on the clock and Northern Ireland ahead. Rifled home by Michael O'Neill, the Hibs man, winning his 26th cap tonight. After 28 minutes where the Northern Irish had asked all the questions of the Austrian defenders. Hughes' cross, chested back into the path of Michael O'Neill. Time for him to measure the shot. And a very clinical and precise finish that leaves Michael Consul stranded in the away goal. 1-0 Northern Ireland. Straight back at the Austrians again, never allowed to settle in this game. Here's the goal scorer. Back to Hughes. In for Dowie, and Dowie is pulled back by Feiersinger. The referee, no hesitation, Lee Sundal points to the penalty spot. And 4 minutes after O'Neill's goal gave them the lead, Northern Ireland with a great opportunity to double it with a penalty kick. Clear body contact right under the referee's nose. Feiersinger taking Dowie down, and the West Ham man himself gets up to smash the spot kick home. And Northern Ireland lead here in Belfast by 2-0. Well, the front two of Ian Dowie, the much-travelled striker, in his second spell now at West Ham. Ex-Southampton, Palace, Luton, And Phil Gray, of course, who was also at Luton for a spell, now with Sunderland. Coming to half-time, you can see the rain on the camera lens, just how difficult it was for both sets of players. And the Austrians looking to get back in the game as that one whistles past the post with Fettis stranded. Ian Dowie making his physical presence felt, coming towards the break now. And a great opportunity to add a third, this time set up by Keith Gillespie. And the shot saved at the second attempt. Consul relieved that the Irish weren't further in front. Young Neil Lennon winning his 5th cap this evening, it was, on the end of that cross from the right, but couldn't finish. That's the best opportunity of the first half for the Austrians. A goal then might have changed the outcome considerably. And there from the free kick, it's Walter Kögler, the FK Austria man, who is wasteful with a header from close range. So 2-0 to Northern Ireland at the break then. Start of the second half, and an error from keeper Consul, not trusting himself to take the ball cleanly in the rain, and a punch that lands at the feet of Barry Hunter, and the central defender scores his first international goal and makes it 3-0 Northern Ireland in the 53rd minute. Poor punch clearance indeed from Consul, really under no pressure, and Hunter instinctively heading the ball first time back into the unguarded net. Great moment for the Wrexham boy, Firesinger. He conceded the penalty, remember, in the first half. 3-0 to Northern Ireland at this stage, beyond the wildest dreams of even their most fervent supporters. But the crowd stilled in the wet night around Windsor Park when the Austrians got one back with that header, the cross in from the right. Tony Polster delivering the cross, and the goal to the name of Schopp, the number 2, Marcus Schopp, brings it back to 3-1. So the Austrians they felt back in the game. Real end-to-end stuff in the mud. As Phil Gray makes life uncomfortable once again for the Austrians as the keeper comes, and then the defender gets in the way, and the goal scorer, Schopp, concedes a corner kick. Michael Consul by this time, having already conceded 3 goals, clearly unhappy with the aerial ball in from the corner kick. Once again, it's a mistake from the Austrian keeper, and the ricochet coming in from right on the goal line. Phil Gray has the simplest of chances to head in number 4, and the Northern Irish restore the 3-goal cushion. That goal coming on 63 minutes. And 2 defenders getting in the way of the keeper. Simple chance for Phil Gray to get his name on the score sheet. But the Austrians weren't finished. Here's Anton Polster setting up the opportunity. A shot that skids off the wet surface. Alan Fettis can't hold it. And following up, as all good strikers should, Stumpf on 69 makes it 4-2. Second half substitutes Stumpf in the right place to reduce the arrears. The Austrians then enjoyed their best spell of the whole game. Fettis forced to punch. The Austrians, knowing they really had to pull something out of the fire, do or die for them, just needed a point to get into second place. But in pursuit of that, they conceded a 5th goal and just about made the game safe for Northern Ireland. On 77 minutes, his second of the night, Michael O'Neill. He'll be hoping to carry that great form forward to the weekend, where he'll be partaking in the Edinburgh Derby for his side, Hibs. And the 26-year-old with a sweet left-foot chip that leaves Consul to pick the ball out of the net for a 5th time. 5-2 to Northern Ireland now at this point in the game. And the goal scoring hadn't finished. 10 minutes to go. Polster once again creating the chance. And the second of 2 substitutes that came on in the second half, Vettel this time, makes it Northern Ireland 5, Austria 3. But that was the end of the scoring, and Northern Ireland, well, they'll look back on the campaign. It all began for them way back in April of '94, before the World Cup, in fact, got underway. Theirs was the very first match to take place in the whole qualification process when they beat Liechtenstein 4-1 on this ground. They might even have had a sixth near the end, Neil Lennon guilty of missing an open goal after great play to the byline by O'Neill. But this win, only the second time in 24 years that Northern Ireland had scored 5 goals. As you see there, could so easily have been more. And when they look back on that campaign, they will rue defeats, in particular at home here to Latvia. They also lost to Portugal and the Republic, perhaps no disgrace there. But in the final analysis, a home defeat, 3-2 at the hands of Latvia, was to prove their downfall. 7,000 fans who braved the elements to come here and witness a night to remember, give the Northern Irish a great hand at the end of the night, and I'm sure they are joined by the whole population south of the border, because that defeat of Austria makes sure that the Republic hang on to second place. And
almost 60 years ago, events in the Olympic Stadium in Berlin sparked off conflicting emotions as Jesse Owens confounded a regime and an obnoxious philosophy by winning 4 gold medals. Well, tonight in the same stadium at a different age, the prize is as alluring as Olympic gold for these two sides. The German team with a surprise selection, Stefan Freund playing on the left-hand side of defense, and normally the other side he's accustomed to. Jürgen Kohler, a little bit doubt about his fitness, but he's selected. Stefan Kuntz comes in place of Herrlich. A lot of experience in Kuntz, he's 33 years of age. Jürgen Klinsmann, of course, in the side, hoping to add to his tally of the number of goals he scored. His 7 goals to his credit at the moment. Bertie Vogts is a Berliner, and this is the first time he's led a German team into his home city. Wonderful setting, and here the Bulgarian side, they've only beaten the Germans 3 times in their history, but they've been significant victories. One will always recall that wonderful victory for theirs in the World Cup, and of course when they were 2 goals down to Germany in the first game and coming back to win by 3 goals to 2. Very strong side, almost at full strength. Jankov in midfield there from Erdingen. There actually are 4 of the players playing in the Bundesliga. Kostadinov is one of them, playing for Bayern. Stoichkov, of course, is now with Parma. And Penev playing in Spanish football. Balakov and Lechkov. Lechkov a great favourite with the Bulgarians and with the Hamburg supporters. He plays, of course, in the Bundesliga as well. The coach, Penev. Vasilios Nikakos, the Greek referee, about to start this game. Pitch in immaculate condition. Well, Bertie Vogts has had a lot of criticism. Certainly a lot more than that man there, Penev. Man second from the right. Germans not at all happy with some of the sides he's put out. Disappointed they didn't do better in the World Cup, of course. And so doubly determined to win this game. The group section, both have 22 points. Bulgarians at the top with their goal difference, of course. And the Germans, I'm quite sure, given their great record, still smarting with the memory, under the memory of that notable victory of the Bulgarians in that first game. On the far side, Marcus Babbel. Three Bayern players in the side, and Marcus Babbel is one of them. I think you'll see Lechkov working very hard in midfield. There he is. What you see about him is he does a lot of his work in midfield, then suddenly he pops up just outside the penalty area, and away he goes, either laying it off for somebody or going through himself. Backed up there by Emil Kremlov, the Levski player. Well, this German crowd, this Berlin crowd, seeing an international for the first time in a long while, seized by patriotic fervor. That's him, Lechkov, doing exactly what I thought as Kostadinov goes in. Well, he's simply run out of support inside him. Beautiful piece of play, and I think I mentioned the quality of Lechkov's play earlier on. Well, he pops up and demonstrates exactly what I was talking about. The burst from midfield and then slipping it forward for Kostadinov. And nobody beside him to the left-hand side. Bertie Vogts just a little bit anxious. You don't want to read too much into this because both teams have actually qualified. They've been handed a pre-Christmas gift. Now this must count now. Player going through there, Mario Basler, the Werder Bremen player, coming in place of Moller today for this game. So we're saying they're both qualified because of earlier results, but they are playing to top the section. That's their first priority tonight. Looked like a free kick on the far side. Babel goes down. Well, the Germans may have been criticized for falling off in the standard of the play in recent times, but you know, they always get it right at the right moment. They're very slow starters in competitions. Very often you've seen German teams in the World Cup and they look quite indifferent, and then they grow in confidence, in organization, and suddenly that machine is ticking over beautifully by the time they get to the climax of a tournament. Just a little bit under that. And I think we may see something of that of the Germans in England. Tiring figure there of Thomas Helmer coming forward, one of the Bayern players. Again, great maturity there, just touching 31. And he's certainly going to be at the center of the German defense in England. What away by Helmer. Thomas Hessler coming in, just a little bit slow. Stefan Kuntz, wonderful run forward there by Helmer. Now he's renowned for doing exactly that. We saw him in defense just a few seconds ago, but if he sees that corridor of opportunity, he flies down it very quickly, and suddenly there he was just outside the penalty area. Exactly there, but he came all of 30-40 yards to make that shot. No pressure on this German defense so far, although they know perfectly well about the pace of Kostadinov. And of course, Risto Stoichkov has been rather anonymous so far. Trying to get as many players into the box as they can, as often as they can, but just a little bit too much crowding going on just now for the Germans. Basler with it. Isles tried to go in there. Beautifully punched away though. Dimitar Popov, he's only had 12 caps. Certainly lacking maturity, in the header by Klinsmann. Just driven away by Popov. They've actually weathered one or two storms, the Bulgarians, and are now beginning to string some passes together at long last. Like that, for example, that looked like a free kick. Nice little 1-2 there. And a yellow card. Yellow card is being produced, and it's Klinsmann. Well, I've said before that strikers should keep out of tackling situations. They really don't do it all that well, and down goes Emil Kostadinov. And that means that Klinsmann, by my reckoning, will miss the first game in England. 2 yellow cards to his name. Stoichkov. Oh, I've seen him do better than that. By the way, I do think it's a pretty ridiculous rule that when they're asking people to pay out handsomely to see the European finals, that some of the stars are not going to appear in the first games because of this ruling they have about bookings. Sammer. That looked like a free kick. And the referee booking Krasimir Balakov, well known in these parts, of course, now playing for Stuttgart and forming a very formidable partnership with Bobic there. Well, he actually had to make the tackle as Dieter Iltz went down. Well, what do you make that side out to be? Put the ball in the back of the net, I think. Thomas Hessler. Little Kobanat, good defending though, as Gunchov got that away. Again, one of the new caps. Oh, they love this little man, Thomas Hessler. There it is! Oh. The finish by Stefan Kuntz. And just about here, I was saying, or thinking of saying, goal. So near. The Germans have played all the aggressive and attacking football, and nothing to show for it so far. And still the ominous presence, the looming presence of Risto Stoichkov and Jordan Lech and Emil Kostadinov up front. Down goes Krasimir Balakov. Got that right on the knee, I think. Yes, I think they want to take him off. Some considerable agony. Yeah, Balakov has been working very hard in midfield, but the problem they have is a talented player like that has mostly been in the last third of the field, and that is with his back to goal. Some of these balls being put forward now rather speculative. Lechkov, look at the diagonal running of the front three men. They were running in 3 different angles there, making it difficult to defend. Nicely picked up by Babel. Way to go again. Kunz puts it wide. Nicely floated ball there by Helmer. And every now and again, as I said, Helmer freeing himself from that back area and floating forward. There's Kiriakov. A great little player, that, a warrior. He snaps at the heels of players all the time. And there, the knee of Balakov, who'd be a professional footballer. Well, I'd be if I got their money, but they do get occasional bangs like that make you wonder. Anyway, the Germans, for all that they've been battering at that defense, have nothing to show for it. No scoring at halftime. Why were the Germans, after all that territorial advantage that they had, and really sometimes great quality possession in front of goal. Slack finishing, best chance of the game, of course, fell to Stefan Kuntz, and he may live to regret it yet. Well, in terms not of qualifying for England, of course, but maybe missing out on topping the group. Played forward by Babel. It's been a rather mechanical performance by the Germans. I've certainly faulted them for their efforts in front of goal, but the build-up has been effective. They've been running well from the back. I think especially Thomas Helmer seeking freedom and getting it a lot. Jürgen Kohler, by the way, didn't come on at the start of this half. I did say right at the beginning there was a little bit of a doubt about him. He's had niggling injuries. He's no chicken, of course, now, Jürgen Kohler, 31, playing in his 78th game for Germany tonight. And a wonderful, wonderful player, but not getting any younger. So he's off. So is he, it looks like. Nice gentleman there, the German manager, that evokes, but he's always compared to the man in front of him, or the man before him, Franz Beckenbauer. It's a better ball, Kostadinov. Oh, Stoichkov! How do you like that? He's done nothing all night. That's what you might describe as economy of effort. He's had about 3 passes, 2 kind of runs at goal that were just faint efforts. 1 shot that went nowhere, and then he pops up like that 2 minutes into the second half with that kind of clinical finish. Very neat play by Kostadinov in the first place. 1 touch and away it goes. Textbook for any youngster watching it. Head over the ball and boom. And the European Footballer of the Year might well celebrate that. I think we'll see a German fight now. Towards the end of the first half, they were getting rather lethargic. I think eating into them with the thought that they were already qualified. Well, of course, they were doing a lot of that in the first half and getting nowhere with it. But patience may count. Getting a little bit nasty. That's Matthias Sammer there. Matthias Sammer, the first former East German DDR player to play for the full side in Berlin. Nice inviting cross headed away by Datilov. But Germans must be wondering what really hit them, because the Bulgarians never looked like scoring in this game. That early effort we saw by Kostadinov was about as near as they got. Klinsmann hovering. You can never take your eyes off that man, of course. A little bit untidy and scrappy at the back now by Bulgaria, but it's been effective for them. Pen out the coach. Just wants them to be patient now. They've got that lead. That's very important. And they've been playing without Boris Mikhailov, the man who became very famous for his hair transplant just before last summer's World Cup finals. He's injured, can't play in a game, and with their younger goalkeeper, Popov, they've held out rather well. Almost had the words taken out of my mouth there. That was a neat free kick, carving in towards the near post. Hesitation there by Datilov. Klinsmann. Just give him a half chance, and you know what's going to happen. And whilst he took that exceptionally well, a bit of a tragedy for Zenko Datilov. Quick one there to Sama Badou, the youngster playing in his first international for Bulgaria. Just lacking a little bit of maturity going for this. He may have been blinded by the floodlights. Look at the apprehension about the way he goes for that. Seemed to take his eye off the ball. And then came the great predator. Just gets his control to that side of him, and there was never any doubt where that would finish. An air of relaxation now. Sama beginning to come forward. Free kick. And I think the change of tactic there and getting Matthias Sama, the sweeper, to make longish runs has paid off there. As he picks the ball up and then slipped it through there to Stefan Kuntz. The free kick was inevitable. Sama is a great player. He of course went to Italian football, then came back to Borussia Dortmund. Never really settled in Italy. Now, I wonder if Thomas Hessler, the pint-sized player, will step up to take this. I've seen him score some beauties before, notably against the CIS in this competition. He's done it again, would you believe? Well, I bet that crowd feel like invading the field now to greet that little man. I think he surprised everybody, and me included. I think I did imagine he was going to go for the chip. He decided against that. And so 56 minutes gone, and he puts him in the lead. He scored a glorious last-minute goal against the CIS in the last European Championship. And of course, 6 years ago, to the very day, scored a goal against Wales, which qualified Germany for the World Cup. So the hero tonight, that player there, where to go again, just passed. And that really would have killed them off entirely. A little bit of space there for Mario Basler. Drags the defense along. There was nobody coming just inside of him. It was as well he tried it himself. Well, Stoichkov was the picture of delight, was he not? You saw it for yourselves very early on in this half. Another man who threatened to come on just before half-time now does come on. Kiryakov, here he comes. He'll buzz around a bit. He's a player kind of like Thomas Hessler. Doesn't have Hessler's finishing skills, but he gets around the field, makes neat passes, snaps in the tackles. Nice, neat play. Sama came forward there. Can he get a cut back? Away there by Datilov. Just touched away from him. The Germans in full flood. Now, can he make anything of this? There's been hardly anything of the Bulgarians in the last 15 minutes. And Kostadinov has had some very hefty treatment indeed in this game. And that's what very often happens now in football if a man is left on his own up front. He's not only got to have skill and pace, he's also got to have considerable courage. Watch his tackle coming in. No way was he getting through. So the Germans now favourites to top the group. Sama puts that forward. In actual fact, looking back over the group and some of the games being played, I think this is the poorest Bulgarian performance I've seen. They played some marvelous games like that one where they won 3-2, of course. Oh, great, Struns. Surely he scores. No, it will be a penalty though, I think. There can be little doubt about that. The Italian referee pointing immediately to the spot. And a yellow card there for Dimitar Popov. What a pity for the youngster. The new goalkeeper, as it were. He's had a marvelous night, making great saves. Oh yes. Neatly scooping up the ankle, watch it. Oh, he got the toe, in fact. So, he might not play in the first game in England, but there he goes. Once again, his 9th goal of the tournament. And my, how they'll miss him. Whatever their opening game is in England, they will miss that man. Now 3-1. With 75 minutes gone, almost 76. And the game is now well out of touch of Bulgaria. Making it look simple again. Well, they're picking up better balls in midfield now, but I think it's the Germans have really not so much given up, but just quietly contented now, playing well within themselves, and once again proving, as I said earlier on, they get it all right on the night. Never dismiss a German side. German crowd bursting into song. They were rather phlegmatic to, well, halfway through that first half when things weren't quite going the way. That surely is offside. Now into stoppage time. And Bertie Vogts will be relieved to hear the final whistle. It's been a long, hard trail for him. He's suffered a lot of criticism. There's some people still think he's not up to the task of actually winning a major prize, pointing out to the failures near the end of the World Cup. And the Bulgarians, well, they've had a very disappointing evening. I cannot believe they'll play like this in England. I've seen them so often during the past 18 months in the game, really turning on the style, and I think it was the persistence of their play. They were very, very good in midfield, and when you've got great attackers like Kostadinov, Stoichkov and Penev, you're about to score goals. They haven't tonight, except for that counter by Stoichkov. No more than that. And no more than the Germans were due this victory. It came to them the hard way, but eventually they got there, and there's the man who scored a couple of goals. As I said, his 9th in the tournament. He'll be more than mildly disappointed, and he'll realize it himself that he misses out in that opening game in England. Matthias Sammer, the man who engineered the free kick from which Thomas Hessler scored that impudent free kick.
Well, Russia were just one of two nations to go through the whole qualifying process undefeated. Spain were the other. And in their final game in front of a miserable 4,000 fans in Moscow, they protected that proud record against neighbours Finland. That goal disallowed, of course, for offside. And the breakthrough coming 5 minutes before half-time. This time it did count. The Finns guilty of giving the ball away, and Radchenko with one that goes home off the foot of the post. The Russians had already qualified before the final round of matches got underway, so they could afford the luxury of some experimentation and a relaxing encounter here against the Finns. However, on the stroke of half-time, the Finns crafting a goal of their own to bring the sides level. A scrambled one, but it counted nevertheless, and Suominen on the score sheet. Certainly the Russians should have cleared the danger far earlier. However, 2 goals in the second half ensured that it would be another win for this strong Russian side. 10 minutes into the second period, following that corner kick, only half cleared, the ball is drilled home by Kulkov. And perhaps the keeper should have done better. Wrapping it up, it's Kiriakov with the third and final goal. Some sloppy defensive work once again from the Finns, who at one stage threatened to play above expectations and actually claim second place in this group. In the end, it's all gone horribly wrong for them, and of course Scotland were at the top of Group 8 alongside the undefeated Russians. And that's confirmation of how the Scots saw off San Marino. 5-0 goals from Jess Booth, McCoy Snevin, and an own goal from Flancini, as the Scots went nap and secured their qualification in second place. Greece also had a fine and convincing 5-0 win over the Faroe Islands, both the Faroes and San Marino, finishing bottom of Group 8